my creative friends. It's that time talking about creativity. I'm Shannon from Shannon Studio, and I am in Sweden, and I talk about creativity every day. And this week we're focusing on making more time in our daily things that we do, our routine things, how we manage our homes. So we will have more time for creativity. That seems to be one of the biggest problems. I think there's three big problems, but one of the biggest ones is time, not having enough time. And I just really feel like from the years that I've spent managing a home that there's ways to cut things back, cut back on things, streamline things, so that you start to have a little more time here and there, which adds up to being able to be creative. So we're going to talk about food prep and all kinds of things, food. Now, this is a huge subject, and of course, it's not meant to be just thoroughly cover the subject. It's meant to give you some things to think about so that you might see a shift where you can, an area where you can make a shift. And so that way it just gets you thinking about maybe places that you might want to try something different in order to make more time. So let's just begin. I was looking at a few statistics, and it talked about meal prep and who does the most meal prep, and no surprise here, but it's still mostly women who do the food prep. And those who share preparation, about 22 minutes are spent by men and 51 minutes by women. Like when you talk the whole process of prep and cooking and cleaning up, that sort of thing. So it's still predominantly women who we are doing the work of food. So with that in mind, this is a good topic, I think, to talk about. Okay, so why I feel like you should have, first and foremost, a menu. Now, granted, I have not always used a menu, but I have used a menu a lot of the time, and I know the difference between when I use a menu and when I don't use a menu, what kind of stuff goes on around that. I'm very confident every day I know what I'm going to fix, and everybody knows they're going to eat. It's not going to be some surprise in the afternoon or at mealtime going, what are we going to eat? And I know a lot of families operate that way, and I know that it's a stress. It's a stress for the food preparer, most likely the woman, and it's kind of nerve-wracking for family. It's like they're hungry and they don't know when they're going to eat or what they're going to eat. So a menu will cut down on that drama period of the day. A few other things is that it makes a meal prep, having a menu makes the shopping go faster because you know what you're going to get, go in, go out. And also if you pick time of day to shop. Now for me here in Sweden, I go drop Joseph off to school, and then I walk to the train and take it to the grocery store, and there's hardly anybody in there. Where in the States, there's more people there in the morning than here, but it's almost practically empty. So I try to go, whereas right after work, it is a madhouse here. So, pick the times you want to shop as well to make it easy in, easy out. Let's see. Recurring weeks. I wrote, sometimes I write my notes and I go, what did that mean? I just have to laugh at myself. Oh, a menu. Now it's coming to me. A menu. All you have to do is make 2 or 3 week-long menus and just reuse them over and over. Because we usually do that anyways. They say people usually eat the same 20 meals over and over. But it also, and statistics say that if you use a menu, then you tend to have more variety in your food. So bonus, if you want to do that, it brings in a different type of more variety into your meals. So that's one thing. It's also gives you a better diet. this was a big one, and I think I was like a non-believer in the beginning, but it is. There's less processed food if that's what you choose. It doesn't, it's better than fast food, but still, there's still a bunch of processed stuff. So what you decide to prep with, what you decide to buy, can be better diet. So variety, I have blanched vegetables, and for, not for any particular meal, but I've been blanching vegetables and then they just sit in the fridge. And so when I go to the fridge and I'm roaming around, those are already done. I just leave them in an open container, because there's not a bunch of stuff in our thing. So I just leave them in a container there. That's what I just grab, that and almonds in the fridge. And so then I'm not like trying to eat things I shouldn't eat. So that's been proved to be a good thing for my diet. It says that, I read on one thing that you stay within the national nutritional guidelines when you and prep and do your own food. Then there's lower odds of being obese too. So that's just the better diet part of it. Then there's less money wasted, less food wasted, because you're buying specifically what you need. You're not buying a whole bunch of stuff going, I better have this, so in case I want to do this, or this would be good if I do this, and then you get home and you don't even know what you bought it for, or you forget it's there. Not that I'm talking from personal experience. Then another thing is a couple of things that seem odd, but I have found, find a food guru, somebody that you like, that inspires you to be more creative in your food prep, your menu, the whole food gig, and kind of, let them inspire you to do things. Also, another thing I noticed for our family was setting the table. If we set the table in the morning, or we set the table for Sundays, or, it just made it nicer. Putting a tablecloth on, setting the table, it just helped with people knowing we're gonna eat. It just made it a special time, and our family would have time together. So those are a couple of things. Now get into nitty-gritty. One of the biggest things for me, and I know you guys will have a bunch of tips, so don't be shy, share them, and share your ideas, what worked for you, because I was cooking for a family of 10 and friends. So what I did, it would be different for somebody who is a one-person situation. So, but having a menu is a must, I think, and to cut down on time. And then also, this can even be done by if you're just one person or 10 people. Meals in the morning. That was a big thing for me. It was almost like I didn't want to revisit the kitchen once I left it. So in the morning, we never hardly did cereal for many years. And so I would do the prep for the breakfast, and then whatever I was doing for dinner, I did then. So if it was a soup, it was all put together. If it was enchiladas, it was all put together and covered with foil. So then when I came in the afternoon, just had to pop that baby in the oven. And so then, whether it was a slow cooker, a Dutch oven, all those things, I would do it in the morning. Then I did not have to think about it and waste my mind and time on thinking about it again until dinner time, and it was already done. And sometimes there were couple of last minute prep things, but most of the time we had things that, if we had tacos, that can all be done beforehand. So meals in the morning, I cannot overemphasize how good that was. It just made my day. I felt accomplished. Like, I know what we're doing for dinner. I don't have to revisit that at all today. And even if we decided to do something else for dinner, go out, invited to friends, it didn't matter because it could sit in the next day. Bonus. So Then also another thing that was very helpful, I didn't do all the time, but I did it enough of the time, was to cook 2 meals at one time. So if I'm doing 12 enchiladas, I can do 24 and then put them in the freezer. If I'm doing any meal prep, any dessert prep, I always double batched it. So, well, for us, it was sometimes 4 batches. If I made or the kids made pizza dough, you could do another one and wrap it up for the next day. Then they could have snacks after school. So just automatically make things twice when you're doing it once. That saves huge. And you may not know exactly when you're going to use it, but you can stick it in the freezer until you are ready to use it. Let's see, pre-cooked foods. Oh, let me go back to the fixing 2 meals at one time. This goes for breakfast too. Now, Alan usually makes pancakes on Sundays. He loves breakfast, loves to do that whole routine. So he does pancakes on Sundays. So I asked him to make the pancakes for the rest of the week for Joseph for school. So he does. He makes the whole batch, but we put them in a Ziploc bag in the fridge. So if Joseph's hungry, he can grab one as a snack, but then that's breakfast food for the whole week. And it's done, and it's easy. And we're not re-dirtying dishes, because that's an element too. I don't have to wash dishes from cooking pancakes, making and mixing and cooking pancakes every morning. As it was done once on Sunday, that cuts down on dishes time. That's what also meal preps and cooking 2 meals does. So don't just consider it for dinner, but also for other meals. Like last night, we did BLTs. I did BLTs for dinner, and then I made an extra one and wrapped it up for Alan for lunch the next day. So just, think more than the moment of what meal you're doing in the moment. Think, can I extend this? Can I make another one? Can I, how can you make it more prep to be able to cut down on, make less time later on? Let's see. Okay, I said pre-cooked foods. This was a big one too, especially for a large family. So for instance, I always cook sausage, and I just cooked it in the pan and scrambled it, chopped it up sort of thing. Because we would use it in spaghetti, pizza, and biscuits and gravy and whatever. So it didn't matter exactly if I knew what exactly it was going to go to at that moment, because we would buy in bulk too. And it was just too much. But if I did one of those gigantic things that you get at a restaurant of sausage, then that covers 5 meals. And then that means 5 times I don't have to get out the pan to cook. It's already done. So when I go to do a meal, I take it out of the freezer. It's already cooked. I can do the rest as I need to. So that, same with chickens, whole chickens. Even if you just buy rotisserie chickens, which I do now most of the time, I don't. Before I would just get chickens, like 4 or 5, boil them all, debone them, and put it in the freezer. So I can do the same. I don't do it every time, but I do it with rotisserie chickens too, because they're so much easier to debone when they're warm. And so, I get it, bring it home, it's warm, debone it, bam, it's done. And then you can use it for chicken salad. You can use it for, I keep saying enchiladas, but yeah, enchiladas. I must have an enchilada need. Pre-cook. Let's see. Make ahead stuff, like we were talking before, the 2 meals in one, and I said it can go for dessert. I would do cookie dough and then just freeze the dough. That can be sugar cookies, oatmeal and raisin cookies, chocolate chip cookies. I mean, almost any kind of cookie you can do that with. And I would roll it in balls. So then I could just put all the balls in a container in the freezer, and then I would just take out what I needed. So like in the day when everybody's gone and I wanted a cookie and I just wanted 2, there you go. But anyways, you know what happened there? Alan found out I did that, and I started to realize the cookie doughs were going awfully fast. He found them and would go in and cookie doughs and just eat them. So what I started to do then was to put them in, just like or the cookie dough already made, like in the roll, And so I would just put the cookie dough in the roll and wrap it in foil, and nobody wanted to make that kind of effort unless he really wanted it. He would go in and cut it off and take a big chunk. Anyways, that is the downside of that. But on the upside, it was just really helpful. Doing brownies the same way, we would make it in this gigantic pan, and then we could cut it up, put some in the freezer. And so it was, so, you know, even at last minute things, if people came over, or, you know, I had to take some dessert to someplace, it really lowered the stress, because I knew, oh, I have cookie balls or brownies or whatever you like, do it and put it in the freezer. And it was always, it didn't seem like meal prep and food prep were controlling me. I felt in control of it. And I think that's where you want to get to, is you want to get to the place where you feel like you know what's going on, you're in control, and it leaves you time from doing more dishes and doing more meal prep. And it just makes it easier for you. Okay, a couple more things. Leftovers, saved in individual servings so that somebody can grab it, put it in the microwave. So you don't, I like it when we can just put it in single servings. When you have a big family, you can leave it in the bigger things. But when like smaller, we're a smaller family now, so it's just easier to put them in the single serving. Then there is habits, like having the same thing. Like every Sunday we had Dutch oven cooking. So we had Dutch oven all week, but Sundays we had like three meals. We did pork, a roast, or roasted chicken. Those are usually, so every Sunday, I would know, that's a regular we buy. We can have guests over last minute, usually, because there's enough potatoes and carrots and stuff to kind of go along. And so we just knew that was the way. Also on Sundays, I didn't know how long we'd be gone sometimes. And so with the Dutch oven, if you stay after to talk to people or at church, or you go for a short amount of time, having a Dutch oven is, I would turn it on at home the hour before we left. I did 350, then I would turn it down to 200 to 250 degrees and just let it sit. And when you have a Dutch oven, it can sit all day without getting burned. Rarely did it get burned, and it usually got burned because the lid was ajar. And so that was a great thing, and you can do that during the week too. I don't know, I used a slow cooker when we were first married, but I didn't really like it as much. I like food browned. I love the Dutch oven. We've used Dutch ovens since we were first married, 37 years. So yeah, I'm a real proponent of that, and the fact that you can let it sit on low for a long time and take it out when everybody's ready. Let's see. The same rule applies here that I've talked about with the laundry and the cleaning. Whoever eats, everybody helps, everybody. And that's the thing too that I wanted to say. The only thing that I talk about that does not save you time in the short term. So we have our kids start cooking early, 3 years old. And so they are, even before that, but they can cook by themselves when they're 3 years old. And so and then they start doing other things besides the simple things like the eggs or the pancakes. They make a huge mess. I remember with Layla, since she was our first one and I had no clue about that whole cooking thing, I let her cook, and I remember walking into the kitchen one time and it was covered with flour and bowls, and just, she was so happy. She was prepping and cooking and doing stuff, and I just looked at it and I wanted to be mad, but I just walked out of the kitchen. So, because I knew short game, it was a mess, but long game, it was great. It just was huge in the long game, and I didn't even know how huge it was. But in the short game, you have to realize they're going to make a mess, and it's worth it. It's worth it for their self-esteem. It's worth it for you for later on, because you're teaching them life skills. But also, there are several occasions where I would call home on a Sunday or a day of the week, and I'd say, Dad invited some people over for dinner. I need you guys to cook. Or I remember one time I forgot I had the PTA food that I was going to do, so I called them up and I said, can you fix a pizza that we need to take to the PTA? And my kids, I could tell them to fix a meal, and they could complete and have it all at the right time all together. They managed. So the long-term game was huge for me and for them. And so I would say, teach your kids to cook, but just realize that's not really a time saver, but it will. So I think the only thing left is to talk about things. So if you're talking, I want to spend more time with my family, I don't want it to be hectic. So you know what we do on Thanksgiving is we make rolls. Usually we divvy out everything, but there were times where it wasn't divvied out because the kids weren't old enough. We'd make rolls. You can make rolls and put them in the freezer. You know, like roll them out. We'd make crescent rolls. Roll them out, stick them in the freezer, then put them in a bag after they're each individually frozen, and you're ready. That can be done the weekend before Thanksgiving. Pies can be just like the frozen pies at the store. You can prep them all, then stick them in the freezer. You can cook it, stick it in the freezer, whatever pies you like. The whole green bean casserole my daughter-in-law makes, you can prep all that the day before. I mean, so it can, this whole food prep can happen in everyday life, but it can also help in your making of holiday dinners and stuff like that. And there's a quote, meal prepping. This is from Gabrielle Fundaro, Dr. Fundaro. She's an exercise science professional, and she says meal prepping is a learning process, and it's meant to help simplify your routine and your lifestyle. And it is a learning process because you're going to look at what you do, what works for you, and then streamline how it works for you and get as many people in your family on board as possible. So this to me is, this week we're talking about making more time by streamlining things, and these things really will help you to be able to cut some of that time that you do things and give you time. And what a precious thing to have some extra time to be able to do something. So that is it for tonight. Remember, you have a creative heartbeat. Listen for it. And tomorrow, I think, is our last, I don't know. That might be our last one. Tomorrow's a shorter one. I know I've been kind of long on these, but I will see you tomorrow, and we'll talk more about making more time this week. Okay, bye-bye.